In the previous session, I solved an example on how to find the vector equation of a point of intersection between two lines. Okay, so let's solve another example. The question says, determine whether each pair of lines are parallel, intersect, or are askew. So let's solve with this first one first. We are asked to determine if they are parallel lines, or there is a point of intersection, or they are skewed line that are not parallel. So let's try and check the first one. So for question I, like we did earlier, you can decide to break this down into simultaneous equation, but I will not advise you to do that. The first thing you have to do here before you solve this equation, because that's going to take you through a very long process. The direction is determined by this portion where you have lambda. This determines the direction. Okay, it determines the direction. If you understand the direction, you will know if it is parallel, or there is a point of intersection, or is a skew line. What do I mean? If the direction is the same, that means it must be a parallel line. If it is not the same direction, that means it may be any of the two. So before you solve this question, try and check the direction of these two lines. If the direction are not the same, then you can now try to solve to know if there is a point of intersection or if it's a skew line. I hope you understand that. So let's take these two values. This is lambda minus 3, 2, 1, and the second one is mu, which is 6 minus 4 minus 2. Then you have to inspect these two lines. You have to inspect them. Is there anything common? If you take a look at minus 3 and 6, let's put the minus aside because the minus can lead to confusion aside. 3 and 6, something is common. 2 and 4, something is common. 1 and 2, like is there something common? Because 3 times 2 gives 6, 2 times 2 gives 4, 1 times 2 gives 2. So you must take a look at that, okay, before you start solving. So the first thing, you know that when you multiply this by 2, would you have gotten this? The answer is still no, because minus 3 times 2 gives you minus 6, but this is 6. So that means the multiplier must be negative. I hope you understand that. So that means it must be minus 2. That means minus 3 times minus 2 is 6. 2 times minus 2 is 4. 1 times minus 2 is minus 2. What I'm trying to say to remind you guys is that if you are given two pairs of lines and you are asked to determine whether they are parallel or it has a point of intersection, check their direction first before you start solving. If you take a look at their direction, or where do you find their direction? You find their direction where you have the lambda or mu. That is where you get the direction. Check. Is there anything common, or is there a common factor, or is there something, a multiplier between the two lines? I hope you understand that. So if you can find, like now, according to this, I've been able to find minus 2. That means that the first line, which is R1, is in the direction of minus 3, 2, 1, while the second line has a multiplier which is what? Which is minus 2, also minus 3, 2, 1. Is this understood? Because minus 3 times minus 2 gives 6, minus 2 times 2 gives minus 4, and minus 2 times 1 gives what? Gives minus 2. Take a look at these two values. What do you observe? That implies that they are in the same direction. So since they're in the same direction, so this implies that the lines are parallel. I hope this is well understood. So that means the lines are parallel because this is the same value, then they are parallel. So let's move to the second question. So the second question is R is equal to, okay, the second question is 1, 2 minus 1, then this lambda and this, like I said, take the two lambda and mu and check if there is anything common. So I have lambda 2 minus 3, 4, then mu minus 1, 2, 1. If you take a look at these two values, is there anything common? 2 minus 1 or minus 1, if you multiply anything by minus 1, 2, 2. If you take a look at this, there is nothing common to these three values because 1 times 4 gives 4, 2 times 4 cannot be minus 3, and so on. So there is nothing common between this and this. Okay, so since nothing is common, unlike the previous question, they can either be parallel or skew. Sorry, they can either have an intersection or skew. Sorry for that mistake. So since there is nothing common, that means they cannot be parallel. It is either they have a point of intersection or they are skew line. So how to find them? Then we have to go back to the previous method of simultaneous equation to find if they are what have a point of intersection or they are skew lines. So that means that you have to write back the full equation. Okay, so the full equation is 1, 2 minus 1 plus lambda 2 minus 3, 4. Okay, since you want to find if they are if they have point of intersection or they are skew, then you have to equate them. Okay, to be equal to 4 minus 2 minus 5, then plus mu, and that must be minus 1, 2, 1. Okay, then you equate them together on the 3-axis. So this becomes 1 plus 2 lambda is equal to 4 minus mu. Then 2 minus 3 lambda is equal to minus 2 plus 2 mu. Then minus 1 plus 4 lambda is equal to minus 5 plus mu. So these are three equations: equation 1, equation 2, and equation 3. I hope this is well understood. Okay, good. So the next thing is to solve any of these two equations. So don't bother solving the three equations. Just solve any of the two equations. Okay, good. So to solve any of these two equations, you can also use a calculator to do this. I hope you guys know how to use a calculator to do this. So to use a calculator to do this, you have to write the two unknowns on one side and the constant on the other side. Okay, that is the two variables and the two constants. So the variables are lambda and mu. That means you can write this as 2 lambda plus mu is equal to 3. Because 2 lambda plus mu, 4 minus 1 is 3. Then I can have this as minus 3 lambda minus 2 mu is equal to minus 2 is minus 4. Then I can have this as 4 lambda minus mu is equal to minus 5 plus 1 is what? Is minus 4. Okay, so with this, you can use a calculator to evaluate the value of lambda and mu. Just take any of the two equations. So to use a calculator to solve this, you take your cash calculator, you press mode 5, then the first one, x plus y is equal to, so the first one, then 1. Okay, then you put in the coefficient of the variables of any of the two equations. Okay, so the first value is 2 equal to, then the next value coefficient is what? Is 1. Okay, equals, then the constant is 3. Okay, then equals, then the next thing is, for the second, you can take any of the two equations. Okay, then the next one is minus 3. You see the minus 3. Then the next one is minus 2, and minus 4. So when you press equal to, then you see the first value is 2. So that implies that lambda is equal to 2. Then when you press your equal to again to get the second value, y, so that implies that mu is equal to minus 1. So this is how to use calculator to calculate simultaneous equation. I hope you understand this. So after getting the value of lambda and mu, what you do is you now substitute this into the third equation. into equation 3, any of them, okay? Remember that the third equation is minus 1 plus 4 lambda equals to minus 5 plus mu, which is also 4 lambda minus mu equals to minus 4. So you substitute these two equations into equation 3 to know if it has any point of intersection or it is skewed. So the third equation is 4 lambda minus mu is equal to minus 4, isn't it? So this is what we want to derive at, or we want to arrive at. Okay? So let's assume this is not there. So this is now 4. The value of lambda is 2 minus, what is mu? Minus 1. So 4 times 2 is 8, minus minus is plus 1. Then the value is 9. It is supposed to be what? Minus 4. But what is the value? 9. So what does that imply? Before I tell you, can you please write it in the comment section what you think this implies? If we have gotten minus 4, what do you think it implies? Now we did not get minus 4. What did you think it implies? So I guess you guys must have written it in the comment section. So since the value is not minus 4, that means these lines are skewed since they are not minus 4. So this implies that the lines are skewed. That means they do not have any point of intersection. And we have first proved that they are not parallel. That was the first thing we did, if you remember, when we are trying to compare if there's any relationship between the direction, if they have the same direction, trying to find if there's any relationship between this value and this value. Since there was no relationship, we concluded that they are not parallel. Now, then after solving, we got the value of lambda and mu. We substitute it into the third equation. We did not get what we are supposed to get, which is minus 4, which tells us that the lines are skewed. If we have gotten minus 4, that implies that the line has a point of intersection. I hope this is well understood.